pray with me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts draw us closer to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. The Gospel of John is very concerned with the concept and the problem of truth. If you'll recall, for those of you who've read John and engaged much with John, there's an odd scene with Jesus and the Roman Governor Pilate that only appears in John, where they have a dialogue. Let's mute everybody. I think Sylvia is talking to Mickey, but I got it fixed. And Pilate asked the question, what is truth? Now, I don't know about you, but this might be a question I ask before breakfast about 10 times every day. We live in a no-truth zone. The truth has been under assault for a long time, and that includes all the way back to Jesus' time and probably forever. How do we know what we know? How do we know what we know? Philosophers have worked on this question forever. But we now live in a time where untruth, like what time our service starts and where, can be absolutely exponentially sped up and spit out to us through everything on our bodies. This thing lies to me so many times before breakfast, it's ridiculous. Now, it also inspires me. It keeps me connected to community, right, Catherine? I remember when we had to use a phone, right? And they had wires, which meant that they were only available. I mean, I remember when we finally got ones that were portable and you could at least walk around the house and maybe outside if you had a really good one. Now, electronic leashes. Electronic leashes. Electronic leashes. And an absolute stream of information. Actually, let's call it a fire hose of information. Most of the time, the information is kind of like it was raining while Alex was preaching earlier, just about as hard as it can come. It's coming so hard that all the noise, and it is noisy in here, this metal roof is wonderful for that. The noise makes it hard to hear. Makes it hard to hear the words we need to hear. That grim demonic chorus drowns out the still small voice. Now, what I love when you all talked about the holy, a lot of you talked about really big ways of seeing the holy in nature, and those are big things that I think people fail to notice sometimes because we take them for granted. We take the beauty of the earth and the magic of the heavens and the stars for granted most of the time, unless it really changes. Like, oh my gosh, it's really raining. Or when I was at Christ in the desert, to be in a really dark place where I could even see the Milky Way, the whole Milky Way. Well, that is a pretty awesome thing to see. It puts you in a place of awe. And remember, Live Edge readers, we read a whole book about awe. And so I could have used the word holy in our question, which I did, but I could have used the word awe as well. What brings the awe? What brings the awe? A-W-E, not A-W-E. Ah! Ah. What brings the awe? So I know that every single person in this room, on any given day, has an experience of truth. And you're probably going to be lied to every day too. And the tricky bit is to know the difference. And I do think it's getting harder. I actually think it's getting harder to discern. I'm not that old, but I remember when it seemed a little simpler. And maybe I was delusional, I don't know, but it does seem harder to sort out the truth anymore. So here we have this wonderful story, this ancient story that only appears in John, of the disciple Thomas. And because he wasn't there at the special meeting of Jesus, he is like, well, I'm just not going to believe what you guys tell me. I got to see it for myself. Now, for many years, and probably every sermon I heard as a child, the story of Thomas was a way to nudge you towards believing without seeing. Because it says, blessed are they who believe without seeing. Well, okay, fine. I think Thomas has had a resurgence of great respect. Thomas is the one who says, you know what, wait a minute. I need to know a little more. I need to know a little more. And what I love is what he wants to know is embodied. He doesn't want someone to make a big theological argument. He doesn't want to go in a courtroom and have multiple witnesses and evidence produced. He just wants to see Jesus. He just wants to see Jesus. And I really respect that. And I think that there is an invitation in that for us. In this, what would Thomas say about AI, for example? A computer figured this out? Well, the computer had old information, right? Ziv thought we were still in El Cerrito and meeting at noon. Yeah. Google can be wrong. Doesn't make Google the wild demonic chorus, but it does mean that maybe we have to not believe everything we read. Maybe, like Thomas, we have to say, well, is that really true? Now, of course, and it's not a small thing, what time a church meets and where they are, that matters. And that seems like pretty basic information you ought to be able to trust. The computer should get that right. You would think AI, as many times as we have published our time and place, would get it right. And I just know now, Ziv, that I'm going to be talking to my website person yet again to say, can we correct Google, please? And some other things. But how do we believe more important things? How do we discern that? Catherine, we lean into community. How do we really know what we know? We know because more than one of us, now I have to say this is straight up congregationalism, you never know anything by yourself. When 7 or 8 are gathered, or at least 2 or 3, then we know more. Because more heads can cut through the noise. And we can know what is true about love between us, right? I can know that and really know that in a way that I don't know why it's raining in April. It's beautiful. But since I've lived here since 1991, I've never seen it rain like this in April, and I know that that's global weirding because it's the wrong time, and even though we love rain, and rain is generally something we always want in California, plants get confused when it gets cold at the wrong time and when it gets rain at the wrong time and it's dry at the wrong time. They adapt. And so when things go wacko, then it's hard for them to adjust. In the same way, it's hard for us to adjust. So how we know what we know is an important question. And I don't think it can be really answered fully. I think we all are going to come to our own ways of knowing. Laura, is this straight up postmodernism or what? I think we're all going to come to our own ways of doing that. But what I also know is that when we're gathered, like Thomas and the disciples are gathered, our sense of knowing is exponentially improved. So on this day, I'm pretty grateful for Thomas. Might want to even add his name to my middle name somewhere, because we really do have to think about what is truth. Not that there is a capital T truth we can all agree on, although what time we meet and where, that really could be one of those things where it just is what's happening, right? But how we understand how to make peace, how we understand joy, how we understand people who have a different religious tradition than we do, how they think about truth, how we think about truth, and how can we not let our competing truths destroy us. And of course, just on a daily basis, people gossip. They say things that aren't true about other people. Hurts them. Probably happened to you. They tell a story about you that just isn't true. And then others believe it. And the next thing you know, you're paying for something you didn't even do. Right? Anybody had this happen in their family? Anybody had this happen in community? So while community is part of the answer, community can also be problematic. Right? So we do have to find ways to work together. And to answer what is true for you. And then to genuinely hear each other into those answers. Because it's a little difficult to be completely in the I can't trust anything. In fact, you can't live that way. We have to be able to grapple with this question. We have to be able to find a way to at least sit with the question, because just being skeptical, and this is why, Thomas got the bad rap in the first place. Being overly skeptical, being unwilling to believe anything good about anybody, anywhere, anytime, oh, that's a lonely place. So here's the secret. What does Jesus say when he comes into the room? Anybody remember?
Peace.
Peace be with you. I have made it pretty much my practice that anybody who comes in peace, I want to hear what they say. You don't come in peace, not sure I want to hear anything you have to say. Peace is the way that we see that it is the holy at work. In the presence of peace and coming, it doesn't mean we don't disagree. It just means, do you come in peace? Do you come with my well-being and your well-being at the center of our interaction? Or do you come to destroy me? Are you the grim demonic chorus? My answer to that is get you gone. I don't want to hear anything from the grim demonic chorus. But when someone comes with peace be with you, of course the appropriate answer is, and also with you. And now if you've been a modern Catholic, and with your spirit. They've changed. Oh, what difference would it make if we always started with peace be with you? Would that make the holy a little more visible? Would that bring about a sacred reckoning? What if the best and most powerful tool we have, I'm not going to use a weapon, I'm going to say the best tool we have is to come in peace, even when it's hard. This is why I'm so excited about hearing these folks from the West Bank who have decided that they are going to come together in peace and try to model that out in the community. You know, I mentioned earlier that when I was in seminary, I heard some very powerful leaders, not unlike these folks who were coming from the West Bank, talk about what the difficult situation in Northern Ireland. And I don't know how many of you remember this, but it is my crackpot theory, borne out by some scholarship and other things, that says that actually the only reason that peace was ever made in Northern Ireland was because individual people in their communities worked at it. It wasn't the Camp David Accords. It wasn't any of that. Yes, the Good Friday Accords, I'm sure, helped. But that was not possible until people on the ground were willing to put their weapons down and say, peace be with you. And then not argue about whether it's and your spirit or and also with you. So this beautiful invitation in Eastertide, if we want to be our best and resurrected selves, if we want to live as if the holy is in us, let's all start with peace. Start, begin, and end with peace. May it be so. Amen. Amen.